call the meeting to order. Get a motion for the agenda.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, is it feasible to make one addition to the agenda?
Sure.
If we can, prior to the delegation?
Okay, I can do that. Anyone else have anything to add to the agenda?
One other thing, just Scallop Days and the Royal Canadian Air Force.
Okay, Scalp days. We're going to that. New business. Page 4. Anyone else have anything?
Mayor, can I add on there just the post office?
Post office. Yeah. Page 5.
Thank you.
And I'll be adding on Eastlink TV, page 6. All right, acceptance of the agenda. Approval. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, sorry Ed, we have an announcement to make, so we're going to have to switch after this one. So.
No problem.
All right, so I would like to, in a moment, throw it over to our grant coordinator. This is something, I guess it's an announcement that would have happened in the town that I think it's very important that everyone be aware of. But thanks to the federal election happening, we kind of just got slid into a newspaper onto a website without any real big announcement to take place. But without spoiling, I'm actually going to ask if Rob Hartmeyer would speak to a grant that he put in for the Housing Accelerator Fund for the town of Digby.
All right, 2 minutes lead time. Excellent. To qualify for the Housing Accelerator Fund version 2, the town of Digby developed a housing action plan that includes several key initiatives aimed at enhancing residential growth and development. These initiatives focus on reviewing and updating residential zoning and parking standards and regulations, developing affordable housing incentive programs, and evaluating processes related to development charges and approvals. The total amount, sorry. So this action plan with its key initiatives is aimed at enhancing residential growth and development. And the CMHC has awarded the town of Digby $670,952 in order to achieve these key initiatives.
Yeah, motion to approve. Where's the check? So that's, it's in the bank already, yeah. So that's great, great news for the town of Digby, that's for sure. Especially when it comes to housing, we definitely need help with the housing in the town. So at this time, we'll ask Ed Chisholm from the Digby Harbor Port Authority to make a presentation on behalf of the board. It's all yours, Ed.
Mayor Bartlett, councillors, staff, guests. Thanks for the opportunity to do a brief on activity at the Port of Digby. Municipal support, the town and municipality is very strong in our history, and we certainly want to keep it that way. Port of Digby is the largest port in the Bay of Fundy on Nova Scotia side. It serves. Back up 1 second. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. Worked earlier today, but maybe not now. Is this a touch screen?
No.
Well, I don't know what to tell you now.
It's moving.
Yes.
Is it moving?
Yeah.
Your mouse is.
Yeah.
Mouse is moving, but I'm on slide 2.
Is there a setting for freezing the screen? I know there is at the school, where it won't change the screen that's on display when it changes on the computer.
Oh, I've never come across that one before. Let me just try something in slide. I don't know where I am.
Oh, you got it. Go there, buddy.
Let's try. Should go manual from beginning.
Press the space bar. There you are.
Oh, we're on action now. Port of Digby is the largest port in the Bay of Fundy, Nova Scotia side. We serve communities in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. 7 indigenous communities that fish from the maritime area, fish in the Port of Digby annually. We have berthage for 86 to a peak of 138 vessels per year on a monthly basis. Our port is an ideal location. It's the last wet port, meaning it has water at low tide as you go up the Bay of Fundy, so everyone above us is dry during a couple cycles of the day. And we have room for expansion, so we're in a good position. Good, it's working. Presentation, I have about 4 different points I wanted to bring you up to speed, I guess, on what's happened up to 2023. Then we'll spend a little bit of time on what's happened just most recently, addressing some of the deteriorating piles we've had come across and some of the repairs we're doing. We also had a sea level rise report done and hence have developed a harbor concept. So we'll take a look at that as well. Let me back up one side. Let's see if I can go back. Transport Canada facility. The Port of Digby was always a Transport Canada wharf. It's never been a DFO fisheries wharf, and that's because of its history with the ferry going into that terminal. So those of you that are a little longer in the tooth, like maybe me, 1969 photograph there, black and white, shows the former pier that went out and the terminal where the various ferries docked. That, and I'll point that out on the right-hand side, that terminal and wharf was torn out sometime, I think, in the late 80s, which caused us some problems. So we'll see that later on. Because it was a Transport Canada wharf, a federal government asset, it was divested, sold to a Maritime Harbour Society in 1998, a not-for-profit group from the South Shore with designs, the idea to take over a number of wharves and run them. It wasn't particularly well received locally, and in 2002, the Digby Harbour Port Association was formed as a not-for-profit organization, representative right from the beginning from the town and municipality, a number of fishermen and very interested plant owners and so on in the area. By 2008, things had come together and we actually had to purchase the wharf from the Maritime Harbour Society. And one of the first things that had to be done was an assessment of the condition and a plan for revitalization. So at that time, that wharf had been torn off that I pointed out earlier, where the old ferry used to dock. And we were getting seas that were coming in, especially the nor'easters in the winter, were coming over the wharf and were doing considerable damage. Some of the damage there, holes in the sheet, concrete sheet piling on the side of the wharf. There was a sunken vessel at the time along some of the I guess it was a middle L at the time. So a lot of the early efforts once we took it over was redoing the fenders, the roll chocks, new electrical upgrades, raised that sunken vessel, fixing some piles, an office, floating docks, ramps, and a breakwater eventually to protect us from those nor'easters and the tens of thousands of dollars in damage every year. Our board is made up of 12 members, and there's only 2 spots on that of that 12 that's reserved, and we have a representative from the town of Digby and a representative from the municipality. The others are either fishermen or professionals or people, very interested people to sit on the board. We've spent approximately $15 million to date to bring the wharf up to the standard it's at right now. A little bit on the economic impact. According to a study we had done in 2018, there's about 720 jobs associated with the wharf itself, and we've calculated it $110 million annually in landings. I'm not trying to say that we earn 110 million, but we're a very important, critical part of the infrastructure that makes that possible. So in 2023, the Nova Scotia Government Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture asked us if we wanted to be involved in a sea level rise mitigation report. And that report looked at how to accommodate for sea level rise, and it also had as a component an assessment of the wharf, get an understanding what the infrastructure looked like. So following the engineers that we deal with are out of St. John, New Brunswick, and they come over and they looked at historical and projected sea level rise, and they're recommending in the order of 1 meter rise in the infrastructure to accommodate 50 years sea level rise. They also took a look at the wharf itself, and the marginal wharf, which abuts the water along the shoreline, is the oldest, and then also the first leg or first part of the spur wharf, spur being going off the land and out to the water, built in 1970. So we're at 2025. It's very old. It's reached its age, and some of the design criteria at the time was not as robust as it is now. So it hence has deteriorated faster than anticipated. So those factors had us reconsider, realign with the current project we're on. We had some piles under that older section of the wharf that had degraded. That particular one there had a repair earlier done on it. At the lower part of the picture has some it's like welded wire mesh and that held the concrete in place, and it's failed. So we've had to go to work, and those piles are only 18 inches square, whereas nowadays some of the other ones we built, I think, are 23 or 26 inches square. The cover between the rebar that was in those piles was only 2 inches. Modern construction and sea level sea environments, it's 3 inches of concrete to try to keep those rebar from rusting, because when they rust, they expand. When they expand, they put the concrete under tension instead of compression, and it's weak and it pops off, it spalds. So we're mitigating those issues with the project right now, where most of the repairs call for putting rebar cages and then 6 inches of concrete outside of the current piles with a fiberglass form work, and that fiberglass form will stay on to even add extra protection. It's somewhere in the order of $5,000 a meter for every meter of treatment done, but it's giving us some longevity or some extended lifespan by doing that. We will finish what monies we have for fixing those piles in, I think, end of May this year. There will be more yet to do. So when that report came back, they gave us two options. One was to replace that 1970 version of the spur wharf and then go on to the newer section and raise it up a meter, or replace the whole thing. We looked at the options, and we also realized that no matter what we do, we still have to be able to operate. We can't take 2 years off and just build a new wharf. We got to be able to carry on business as usual, shall I say. So we put together a plan that we'd come up with in 2018 and incorporated the recommendations from the Sea Level Rise report, and we came up with this integrated concept. The phase one is to replace the marginal wharf. So that diagram you would have received in your package that I circulated, I think it circulated to you a number of days ago. That's an overlay of the plan. The aqua or light blue is certainly the marginal, or what we consider phase one, and that's replacing that marginal wharf along the edge of the waterway, steel sheet piling with anodes to prevent rusting. But that would be only phase one. Phase two, because the projected new wharf would go further out into the channel, would require some dredging. The dredging would be on the right-hand side of your screen, and the dredge spoil, including dredging for the marina, will be put in where you see phase 2 in the gold brown colored. So there's a term for that. A bed, shall I say? I can't remember the word, but there'd be a granite area made with the liner, and all the spoil would be pumped in there. It would settle out, and that would become usable area. The last phase, once that dredging is completed, would be a new wharf going off that new marginal, which is the dark blue, for phase 3. It's a multi-year, multi-phase project. It's going to take a considerable commitment, but we got to start somewhere, and we're starting now and try to get ahead of it. So as we prepare to go down that road, we would like to approach the Sustainable Communities Challenge Fund. It's a provincial fund that's managed by the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities. And one of the components in the application is if we have letters of support from municipal units. That's just one more cog in the wheel. So that's part of the reason I'm here. Besides an educational update, I will be asking for a letter of support. What we're going to do is we're going to go to the Sustainable Communities to help us look at starting the ball rolling. Environmental assessment of the project of phase 1 is what we want to get off the ground. In order to do phase 1, there's a geotechnical aspect where you core drill to find out what's down below, so you make sure you're designing and building adequately, and as well phase 1 engineering. So those 3 components trying to launch or begin the process. One thing I've kind of learned over the decade I've been here is that if you have your project, called shovel ready, sometimes if new funding comes out or there's new projects, then you're able to launch and get ahead of it. If you have to start from scratch, then you're not likely to make that round. So we're trying to balance off capital spending with hoping for potential, and we know we got to do something. I guess that's about all I can say on that one. So maybe in close, I just say that the Port of Digby, I guess I would identify or say it's part of the fabric of the community, certainly identifiable as an icon for the community, and certainly we try to be a component of the various festivals in Digby, and sort of we consider it part of our outreach as being involved with those festivals as well. I mean, we've been trying to attract some cruise ship activity, again part of our outreach. This is a picture of the Hebridean Sky that was here in 2018. We certainly were a component in making sure that the Rendezvous 2017 Tall Ships event took place. Attracted, I think we figured, well over 10,000 people for that couple-day event. So I guess that's where we see ourselves as being central to the community. We're also, to recap, we're critical infrastructure in the economic engine. That $110 million, again, is not my earnings, but I think we're an important component to that. And there's multi-millions in secondary economic spin-offs, be it the repair and maintenance or supplies and wages that spins out into the community. So you can certainly argue it's a major economic engine in this area. And to recap, the 720 estimated jobs that happen down right there at the wharf. So again, I hope it's seen as a good neighbor, a good component. And again, to recap, what I would hope to get the council to give us a letter of support for our application to the Communities Challenge Fund.
Great, thank you. I'm actually on the committee, so it's been very interesting. I won't do a couple meetings since the last election, but it's definitely an aggressive project, that's for sure. Any questions from council for Ed?
I got one. Ed, the new hall that you're talking about, is that around the phase 1 area?
It's a component, yeah, it's component phase 1. Our design is to put a travel lift haul out in it. There's, I think, like, it's not easy for me to bring that picture up, but there's a little notch up there at the top. So you're familiar with a travel lift, I assume, that you sort of go out and the straps come down to pick the boat up and park it on land. So that's the
Will
design.
there also be a regular haul out somewhere there?
That's sort of option 2. We can sort of weighing off 2 options. The difficulty is, I'm sure the town is aware of it with discussions over the many years, is that I think I worked out your typical ramp angle on a haul out is somewhere give or take 7%, no steeper, no less. And given a 30-foot tide, 7-degree angle, I think it's a couple of 100 feet it has to go out, and that is problematic both in space and it's still not cheap. So it's yin and yang and issue to try to make that work.
And what's the depth roughly that you're looking at out at the end of phase 3?
At the end of the sheet piling, without dredging, it's probably in the order of 2.5 meters there right now. So yeah, so it would end up being dredged.
And phase 2 will be deeper. I see you're showing a larger boat.
Yeah, phase 2 would have the primary amount of dredging would be to the southerly, because you got to go. We'd be going right in the middle of the channel with the existing with the new wharf. So you got to dig further to the south to get bypass.
Quite a bit deeper.
It'll end up being deeper. Right now we're about 6 meters on that southeast corner, and it gets less as you go towards town to about 3.5 meters depth at zero low tide.
How does that relate to the depth coming in from the bay? Is that
It's about 6 meters or so in the channel in out past the pines until you get to deep water. Yeah.
Is that low water?
Zero at zero.
Yeah.
We rarely hit zero, but
Yeah.
that's what they calculate for. Yeah.
Still, so high water, you can bring a fair size.
Oh yeah, high water's no problem. It's the partial low water.
Once you get in here, what can you do with it? That was the question there. So
And in that diagram, past phase 3, shows a ship off there to the easterly, and that would anticipate being a dredged basin so that the ship could come in there and sit and be able to go up and down with the tide in its own.
Actually be
Alongside and in a basin, because many ocean-going ships, they're looking for 10 meters.
Yeah.
So that's you'd have
even if they can get in there, there will be a deeper spot.
That's it, a little basin for them to sit in. Yeah.
Thank you.
Ed, with your current breakwater and where they put it in the end, they sort of had some trouble finding bedrock and how far down it went. Do you have any test results for the end of phase 2 and where the bedrock is there? How much you have to put in there for armored rock?
Yeah, I mean the idea is to put, if you see that we're talking about that basin for the vessels on the easterly, that would be done with sheet pile, so it'd be driven down into relatively hard soils. There's sandstone down there. I wasn't involved at the design and the start of the breakwater, but I was told there's about 40 feet of silt under there, and that's why when you look, it goes like that. It has a bit of a slant on it. They built a very wide pad, of rock for it to sit on, so that comes up like that, and then the breakwater's up like that, and it's still settled. I think it's 2.5 feet on the outside. So there's a lot of silt in that channel out through. Yeah.
That's where the most pounding wind and water comes in.
Yeah. There's a fair fetch from Annapolis down. It just piles up on the wharf. So.
All right. Any other questions for? We'll put a support letter together, that's for sure.
Thank you very much for your time and your attention.
Thank you for all the work you do. You've been busy. All right, we will move on to minutes of previous meeting of March 3rd. Is there any errors or corrections there? If not, we'll accept them as presented. And business arising from the minutes is the second and final reading of the bylaw 2025-01, bylaw to repeal the taxi bylaw. I see a few taxi people here tonight, taxi drivers and company owners. If you would like to address council for anything that you'd like to say, you can address them to me, and we will just address them to me. Just step up if you want.
I'll find it in the back here. I don't know. I was just last minute find out about this meeting.
Okay.
So I don't know what's going on, we're supposed to be changed to or whatnot.
Okay, perfect. So what we're doing is we're repealing the taxi bylaw, so we're no longer being charged with taxi service in town. Right now, the way the bylaw stands, we can't police it anyway. So anything that occurs, we can't police them because A, we're not here, and most of the things that are policed by taxi issues are provincial, and we have to send to the RCMP anyway. So that's why we decided to move forward with it. The next thing, once we get rid of the bylaw, correct me if I'm wrong, you'll dictate your own pricing. So right now we set the pricing for taxi cabs in town. That's part of our bylaw. And once this bylaw is gone, it'll be like any other business in town. You set your pricing and you do whatever for pricing. I had a couple of questions from people with regards to safety and with regards to criminal record checks and chauffeur license. So when it comes to getting a chauffeur's license, you are required at that time to submit a criminal record. So again, that's nothing to do with the town. So when you reapply for your chauffeur's license, you have to show a criminal record check to get your chauffeur's license. Also with the RCMP, with the safety, I talked to the RCMP, the staff sergeant, and they'll be working with the compliance people of Nova Scotia, the gray truck that goes around. 20 years ago, we used to have them come here and inspect the cars. We used to lift them up and everything and make sure they were safe. Obviously, our bylaw enforcer can't safety inspect the car as well, so that's also provincial. So everything that we deal with, taxi cabs right now is all provincial, so we have no control over it whatsoever. So there's really no need for us to be in the taxi business.
So who issues a taxi license?
There's no more taxi license, so.
So you don't have to have a taxi license?
You have to have a chauffeur's license to drive taxi. So when your license expires, when you apply for that status again for chauffeurs, you have to have a criminal check with that in order to get that license.
So every 5 years?
Every 5 years.
So you're saying the DOT, well not DOT, but vehicle compliance will be coming down and going over the vehicles themselves?
They can pull you over at any time to go over your vehicle, yes.
So do we still have to go with a 1 year MPI, or do we go back to a 2 year?
Everything stays the same as what you're doing now. Like I said, we have no control over you, really, other than this $9 cab fare in town. That's the only thing we have control over. So.
Well, I go by the list that was provided by
Right.
Laura Lee.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
I run by that 100
Yeah. So.
I don't think it's right that people can like do a $6 run and should be at $9 run. I don't think it's right that it should be charged $400 when it should be $300.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like.
But now it's a free enterprise. You can charge what you want. If you want to do free rides, you can do free rides. That's
Excuse my language, it's gonna be a shit show.
Huh?
Excuse my language, but it's gonna be a shit show.
Well, it's no different than restaurants in town. I mean, if I want to do a special, give it away, I can, right? So
Yeah, I know.
everybody has their own clienteles. You keep your clienteles the way you do it. It's no different than any other business, right? So we don't police businesses downtown either.
No.
So, right, so that's the way we looked at it, so. Any other questions?
So when does this come in?
When
does this come into effect?
Will come into effect probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks.
So there's no concern, like in town that has like pretty serious mobility issues, like a bus that runs pretty infrequently. There's a lot of people who don't drive. There's no concern that in the aftermath of removing the controls, that there'll be gouging, that there'll be a race to the bottom. Like, you know what I mean? To look at it from your guys' perspective, like what's to stop somebody from undercutting and undercutting and undercutting, and then like, you know what I mean? It's sort of, I think a taxi sort of broaches an area where it's a service that's maybe, that does require some oversight. You know what I mean? They're providing something of a, I don't want to say it's a municipal service, obviously it's a private enterprise, but they're doing something of import for the community, right? We do regulate industries that we determine are like necessities, right? And I think that especially in a place like Digby where you do have, 2 hours
between a bus.
You know what I mean? And aside from that, just the mobility issues that a lot of people in the town have, it seems perhaps unwise to make it the Wild West all of a sudden.
But there's nothing in the bylaw that we control.
But the price is controlled.
Yeah.
Just a maximum. Like he said, some people are charging $6 and $9.
Right.
It's free enterprise. As far as a business goes, you're going to be able to, it will self-regulate. It will.
It will. It'll all boil down to a fair business in the long run. I mean,
There's not like a lot of precedent for that.
Yeah, there really isn't in this town.
You know what I mean? Like things that are supposed to quote unquote self-regulate often don't.
Yeah, address that to me, please, not to the crowd.
Oh, I was just.
Okay, yeah. So again, I can pick up the phone and call 4 companies and get 4 different prices to Halifax right now.
Right.
That actually seems incorrect.
Well, but hold on. But the bylaws, though, as they exist now, do they prescribe a price to Halifax? They don't, right? So the bylaws that we're talking about and that you want to repeal are the ones that affect local people who live here and make use of these cabs on the daily.
Right. So right now, the fee we charge, we sort of assign is $9 per
Right.
town. So that's in town. So we can go, say, from Ricardo's to Tim Hortons, $9.
Right.
Once you go to outside of our town limits, we don't control anything outside our town limits.
No, I understand, but that's also not what we're talking about, right? So the bylaw that you're going to repeal wouldn't affect anything it already doesn't, right? So all it's going to affect is the prices that people are paying in town, right? Which,
That's right. Yeah,
right.
Other than that, it's all provincial or RCP that takes care of it.
Would there be a limit on, you just need a chauffeur's license, so theoretically, 50 people in town would get their chauffeur's license and we could have 15 cabs going around?
from what I understand from speaking to a number of the cab drivers and company owners, that was a big part of what made the laws as they exist now attractive. Was that there was an idea of stability and an idea of like not everybody can just become a cab overnight, essentially. You know what I mean? And without there being any guideline or enforcement, it seems like that's an inevitable consequence.
But we're not enforcing. That's our issue. Is we can't enforce anything on it.
I was under the impression, by talking to different cab owners and drivers, so to speak, that everybody agreed that there'd only be an X amount of cabs or companies. How's that go? Cabs or companies? You was here that companies in the town. Like if you bring, there's what, 4? 5 of us in town. Yeah, like there's 4 or 5 companies. He can go start one. This lady here can start one. This lady over here can start. If you get 10 companies into a little town, it will never, ever.
No one can run a business successfully.
You'd have to run for $1 an hour.
Yeah.
Like what's the stop? You wouldn't even cover your gas.
The Yarmouth companies have 10 cars, some of them, right? What's to stop them from sending 2 cars here every day and charging $8?
Profitability.
Yeah.
But
no,
that's not really how that works.
I run by the guideline that was set out, or the paperwork that we got, all of us as cab drivers and owners, got from the town here. Like it's $9 in town. Out fars, say Pex, we'll use Pex for an example, it goes to $10, like out fars the roundabout, then it goes up from there, and it's but it's only suggested prices, like from here to Yarmouth, here to Halifax, Bear River, Annapolis, Weymouth, and so on and so forth. Like we try to, I can't speak for all cab owners, all cab drivers, but me as an owner, I try to run by prices set forth by the town. Like, so I know in town you guys agree. I know out of town we can charge whatever we want, but I don't. I go by the suggested.
You can still.
Yeah, but if somebody's.
You can still go by those prices.
Yeah, but the suggested price to Halifax is say is $3.50 to the airport. Joe Blow down the street has a cab company. You could do it for $2.50. You're taking food off of me and my family's plate.
And that's the idea of the old bylaws, is that they provided for a stable
So-
environment to operate those
by the-
businesses in.
Run by the paper that we
Right.
have, I highly recommend it.
Here's what, when you go outside of town limits, so when you work past the Kingfisher Hotel, you don't have any control of anything that happens outside of the, in the municipality. So there could be 50 cab companies outside of, just sitting outside in Conway. Because Conway isn't regulated by our bylaw.
No, I understand that.
I'm not sure we're concerned about what's happening outside of town.
Because that's, we have been, my bylaw enforcement officer has been overloaded in requests, in complaints about what happens outside of town.
I understand, okay.
But if
And we don't have any control. We regulate, but we don't have control.
it just seems an odd response to abdicate any opportunity to have control as a response to a problem.
So right now, in the municipality, if I lived in a municipality, I could do 10 taxi cars right now.
Sure.
No regulation whatsoever. None.
Okay.
So with us moving this bylaw, it's not gonna change the situation.
Outside of the town. It will change the situation inside of the town.
Just, so if anybody can charge what they want, how are we aware of who would be charging what price? Like, do they have to upfront let us know when we get, you know what I mean? What if you get in a cab and somebody's expecting a $9 ride and you pull up to Tim Hortons from downtown, they're like $15. So like how, because if you're not gonna regulate it, who's, yeah, so now we're gonna ask every cab, because now I
The
figure.
reality is they're gonna have meters eventually, is how this will work out in the end. There'll be meters.
Work in Digby.
Well, the thing is they don't work for us, they work for you guys. 'Cause you
That's
guys-
it.
Yeah, they'll make cabs way more expensive for people who drive them.
I don't want no meter.
Yeah, that's how it'll go.
So we wouldn't put meters in, we're
You wouldn't mandate them, you'd leave it to the free market, which would then eventually either, what, I mean,
yes.
Uber is what's gonna happen.
well, no, because they'll block Uber.
You know what I mean? But that's how that is gonna go.
But they have to again apply for a chauffeur's license for Uber. It's the same thing, right?
Well, but we're not, Uber's not there, it's a separate thing. The point is that it's gonna end up in more expensive cabs for people. And I think that it's hard to say that isn't likely to be the case eventually, right? Is that there could be a war of different cab companies that pop up overnight and that they'll eventually put each other out of business, like Brian's saying, and then
Survivors will raise their price.
that's exactly right. You know what I mean? And it sort of seems like an odd thing to do. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to speak over you, man, by all means, like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just my summary of what I'm hearing here.
Yeah.
Is you're concerned about all of this new business and stuff moving in because they've taken off one thing, because everything else is controlled by the province. The only thing that's changing
Right.
is you don't pay your $9 license, and what you charge
So your $9
within, yeah, there was a $9.
$25.
Oh, sorry. What you charge
Yep.
from the Kingfisher to down by the Racket
Right.
right now
Yep.
is controlled.
Right.
There is currently
Yeah.
no difference if somebody started a business in Conway
Right.
and drove somebody from Peck's Auto Glass into town. There's no regulation on what they would pay. So the worry about there being a big change
Right.
because there's no control within the town limits
Right.
is, shall we say, exaggerated. Because if there was going to be a significant amount of people start up a business
Yeah.
just because the regulations were taken off of this teeny area,
Right.
do you really think that they wouldn't already have done it? That we're talking about a very small town within a big municipality.
Right.
And the regulations don't apply if you drive somebody to Superstore.
Right.
It's suggested. I know a lot of people that take taxis on a regular basis.
Yep.
There's only 4 companies in town. I'm not familiar with all of them. 5, sorry.
It's okay.
But you're one of the drivers. Do you own your
Yes,
cab?
I'm an owner, yes.
Okay, so when this happens, do you plan to change your price? So
I
the
have-
people who rely on you will still have somebody they can rely on.
That's right.
Nobody is going to look at, oh wow, they took off the limits within the town of Digby, let's have a free-for-all. If they were doing that, they would have done it already and started their business in Conway. You really have no concerns about this big shakeup. They're just saying, our officer is dealing with a lot of complaints coming in that they can't deal with because it has nothing to do with them. So it already has nothing to do with them. They're just officially saying, okay, we're just going to take the license fee off and say, yeah, we're not dealing with it because they aren't dealing with it anyway. The only thing that changes is what you charge within that itty-bitty area. And you can still use whatever way you want to do it. And as long as there are reputable people like yourselves with cab companies, there's no concern.
That's right.
I mean,
100% bang.
we're meant to respond to you, I guess, and not to each other. I'd love to chat with you about it sometime, other times. But I will say that I don't agree with that assessment of how things will proceed. And I think that if it were likely that were to be the way that it proceeded, these bylaws wouldn't have been created in the first place or be preferred to having them removed by the majority of cab owners.
So the business license was taken off from the province and the town 20 years ago.
But again, like
It used to be a business license, so I competed with 20 restaurants for 30 years.
Yeah.
I survived. Right? Same height.
Okay, I understand, but if the regulation is working in the sense that it's creating a stable environment and stable prices for the majority, but it only isn't in that it creates complaints for the bylaw officer.
No.
I think we're laboring under a false assumption. The assumption is that when we take this bylaw away, now it's open to many cab companies coming to town. That assumption is false.
Okay.
Today, 5 new cab companies could come to town. They would come to this office,
That's right.
they would get their license, they would operate. So because we're not regulating a very small fraction of that, doesn't mean that suddenly someone in Halifax is going to, oh, there's a map to me, right? We're not going to be an influx of new cabs.
I guess we'll see how it goes.
I was under the impression that no more cab companies.
That is the impression that the cab company owners
That's
all
what
have.
I, actually, that's what I was told.
That might have been amongst you, but that was never a regulation in town.
Cab companies came here. Cab companies came here about 3 years ago, roughly, and they asked to limit the companies, and they also asked for limiting the number of cars, and we didn't do it. The only thing we asked is, do you want to charge a higher price because the $9 has been on for a long time. The last increase, I believe, was 7 or 8 years.
It's been on for 10 years at least.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm
10
fine
years.
with $9.
So we suggested, instead of limiting the cars, then we could put the price up. They didn't want that.
No.
So the price
If
remained
you take people
on,
on social services,
So,
people on.
Yeah.
The price of gas and everything, and the upkeep of
That's
the
what the
car,
market can bear, right?
this has no effect on it whatsoever. It's a individual business.
And
All right.
if another cab company, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
But if another cab company's come in, are they subject to have the same insurance as we pay?
Absolutely. Have to have a chauffeur's license to be a taxi cab.
Well, I don't have a chauffeur's license, but I just have a taxi license.
Well, you need a
Well,
chauffeur's
class
license
4,
to
whatever
drive.
it is.
You need a chauffeur's license to drive.
Okay, well, class 4, I didn't realize it's a chauffeur's license, I just, class 4. Just one step lower than mine.
All right, Jerry, last question?
Okay, I agree with what Brian just said. If people want to start a cab company up, go through the same thing we have to go through. Pay big bucks for the insurance, commercial insurance.
Yep.
To make it fair for everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because as soon as,
Like, I don't want to see some Joe Blow come in here.
Nothing
And drive with regular insurance, expect to carry factories.
So that's what's going on.
Nothing in the bylaws that are being repealed now specifically require that to begin with, though, right?
Yeah.
It's all provincial, it's all department, it's all,
Yeah.
nothing to do with it. It's all provincial, your license, your inspection of your vehicle, that's all provincial, we don't do that, we don't control that.
That's the way it should be. If you go to register motor vehicles, you renew your license.
Right.
You're gonna be doing a cab driving. Show your proof of insurance, of commercial insurance. Pay the $6,000 a year like we do.
Yeah. And show your criminal record.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, the public's safe, everybody's safe, and your own entrepreneurs right now, so.
Yeah, I know.
Right? All right, any other further questions? Any other further questions from council? If not, I'll ask for a motion. Second reading.
I'll move the second.
Right.
Reading to repeal taxi bylaw, number 2025-01.
Have a second.
I'll second that.
Second. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you for your comments, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
You want to stay for that one?
No, I'm good.
Thanks very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thanks for coming out. All right, we'll move on to the report. Okay, so we'll move on to reports. First one up is the mayor's report. Just breeze through a little bit here. Another busy month. Had an interview with the CBC over the housing in the area. I felt they did a good presentation on CBC. A few residential issues with garbage. So we got hold of, this was down in the south end, and we talked to social services to help with that. They put in some boxes down there now, garbage boxes and the green cart to hold it, which is great. Had a touching story on March 9th. I had a resident who was in Dartmouth calling me, so I met him here on Sunday morning. And he was part of the first soccer team at DRHS that won the provincial championships. Quite an athlete. He was in the Boston Marathon, and he actually gave us the crest that he won back in 1958, I believe it was. And the gentleman's actually 90 years old. So after talking to him, I was inspired to go to the recreation, and we're starting up our Hall of Fame again, which will be virtual. So we're looking at getting that going right now. Councillor Foote is working on that for us. So people will be able to go to 3 or 4 buildings in town and actually go through the Hall of Fame. Right now, all our photographs that were over at the Digby Station are up in a box in the arena. So we want to get those back out so people can see their aunts or uncles or grandparents, and so we're working on that. And it should be ready by tomorrow, right?
Okay.
Okay. So the plan for that as well, we'll kick that off with the ceremony at the high school theater, and we'll have a couple extra guests on hand. Hopefully, Vance will be able to take part in that, and we'll keep this dream going for Digby. We had a dark meeting, went through the arena with Simcoe. As you're probably aware, we had some issues at the arena, so we ordered our new ice plant for next year. Met with AVR. We have Digby 135 coming up on June 21st, and that'll be at the Fisherman's Park, where we'll be having a barbecue, some live music, a bagpiper, town pride. This is our 135th incorporation year, so we'll be having an event go on there. April 23rd, Councillor Foote and I put together a pre-open house, which is a free budget show that we're having at the fire hall from 5 to 8, so you can come and see everything your money goes to. So there'll be the fire department, there'll be senior safety there, the recreation will be there, property evaluations will be there from the province, so you can see why your taxes are so high, or your assessments anyway. So we encourage you to come out for that.
What time was that?
That's from 5 to 8. And this Wednesday, we have our planning meeting over at the fire hall. And there's an afternoon session from 1 to 2:30, and the evening one is 6 to 7. 7:30, yeah. So this is, we've rezoned everything and looked at how the town's gonna be put out for development and stuff, so please come to that if you can. 2 quick sessions there. Resident was concerned about a light up on corner of First Avenue and Warwick. You probably know it's out there by the graveyard, the little graveyard there. So we're working on getting that fixed. Come from Halifax to fix that, unfortunately. Again, had discussions with taxi cab owners. I did some dumpster diving. There was some items still at the high school that I put in the garbage, so I did some dumpster diving to look for some laptops, which we found them. And at the Wharf Rat Rally AGM, so there's a lot of new stuff coming this year to Wharf Rat. And on our committee of the whole meeting on the 22nd, they'll be here to make a presentation. So if you want to see what's happening with Wharf Rat, please come and see that. I see Stephanie and Brock, is it?
Brock.
Here tonight from 112 Health and Wellness. And she has put together a town cleanup. And we're doing that on the 26th of April. So you can see a flyer that's out there as well. We'll be advertising at our show on the 23rd. And we booked the Digby Station for afterwards, and Waste Check is going to give us some swag to give away, so we'll do some draws for people there. So thank you for that incentive for wanting to do a cleanup. Appreciate it. Also attended the fire banquet, community grants meeting, Waste Check policy meeting, met with MP Chris Dontermont, Dangerous Unsightly, Planning Committee, Executive Committee, Tybee Terrace, and TP Industrial Commission. So it was a busy month. So we will move on to the CAO report.
One sec.
Yeah.
You go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
2 for you, just for clarification's sake. March 6th, you get Chris Thibodeau in there. I would assume that is the former RCMP officer,
Yes.
not the building inspector?
That's right.
Okay, just wanted to check.
Yeah.
And for the CBC, I heard and watched you on those. It's been sent to, I'm sure everyone here has had that sent to them or has watched it a number of times. I just thought it was important that maybe we mention that we should be aware of the process for where we need to send people when they come to us with complaints of the building they're in, and that not everything belongs or should be sent to the building inspector.
Right.
Because CD indicated to me he had a whole slew of people reach out to him about things that aren't really a fit for for him to be going and looking at. So maybe that's something that, for the sake of council, Tom, if you're able to give us a flow chart of where certain things land, whether it's building, fire, or the tenancy board. Because I'll say I'm not entirely certain every time where it should go.
Yeah.
But obviously there are some issues with certain properties in town, and we want to make sure we're giving people the best help that we can. And I guess I, for one, I'm sort of asking for that, to make sure that we're sending folks to the right place to be able to get assistance where possible.
Yeah. Another thing too is I'm in the office on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, where people can make appointments. And if it is anything to do with buildings or anything, our bylaw enforcer is right next door to me, so we can go right next door and we can deal with it and right then and there, so there's no waiting.
Okay.
So she has the forms there, and actually had one last week that was concerned about the building he lives in, and we filled out the complaint right then and there, and she was over there the next day, so that's the way we that's a good way of doing it, so they wanna call town hall or book an appointment with me, come on in and we'll sit down and chat and take it by it.
Okay.
Alright, thank you.
If I may,
Sure.
was it community cleanup you were talking about?
Yes.
And it's on the 26th?
Yes.
Is that just within town, or are you encompassing the whole area?
Well, it's gonna be based on turnout. We're setting like priority areas like in town and working to like the trails, the parks, the things. The main reason we started this is because our son, when we go on walks, sees garbage. So we're like, buddy, we'll organize something, we're gonna pick up the garbage. So it's gonna be, we're gonna start with the trails, the parks, and then into the streets of town based on how many people show up and how many groups we can send out. Because again, we're not expecting people to donate their whole day. It was just maybe a couple hours. So
I know someone interested in the same idea, but outside of town.
Okay.
That's gonna be
Out
a
on the
question
ridge.
that is that happening like literally the week after or something?
No, all I know is somebody
Okay.
that says we should get together and do this.
Mhm.
I don't think any plans have been made,
Okay.
so I was curious if.
that was the reason we reached out to the town. We let you guys know. Otherwise, it just would have been a little event we organized, but we weren't sure if other people were doing that. That's something that the AP Works was involved. We just weren't sure exactly how that worked. We've lived in town for 4 years, but we have 2 young children, so we've been kind of tied up with that.
Yeah.
As they're getting older, we're going to try to get more involved now with the community.
Sounds like a great idea. Looks like Heather wants to say
They
that.
actually do an organized one in Smith's Cove as well.
Oh, they did? So
Not
this is
us,
like,
somebody else.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
like, well, we want
Yeah.
to start something in Digby.
yeah. So perhaps like you already have a day set, maybe these other people would want to say, hey, let's do it in our area the same day. So
Yeah.
it becomes
I'm happy to be in
a
touch.
community-wide event.
That would be
Yeah,
amazing.
with somebody else, like
Yeah.
if you had like contact
So-
info, like we chose the 26th because it's 4 days after Earth Day and it's on a
Yeah.
weekend, so
It's on a-
we'd like to
Um,
kind of keep it.
If
but-
you could make sure I have your contact info, I'll
Absolutely.
make sure that they get through to you.
Yeah. And I'm aware there's another woman who wants to do one on May the 2nd, and that's also why we posted it. When we posted the flyer, anybody who's, we're not trying to take, monopolize this event by any means. It's just
No.
something that we want to, get going. So we figure we pick a day, get some people out. We're not quite sure with weight check, but we're willing to supply gloves and bags and things for people. We're also hoping that if, any dangerous items were found, people can identify them with a picture, and then we can pass it off to the town to appropriate people will go pick up certain items. If there's a bunch of garbage somebody notices in a ditch that might be unsafe to get to because of the thorns, whatever, that can then be passed on, but we would pick up as much as we can.
Sounds like a great event, and my email address is on the town website.
Okay, so your name, sir?
Rick Foot.
Rick Foot.
If you contact me, I will pass your contact information on to the other people, and
That would
maybe
be
it'll
awesome.
become a bigger event.
Awesome. Sounds great.
Thank you.
Like I said earlier, we're gonna have it as well at our show on the 23rd.
Yeah.
So we'll promote it there as well.
Yeah, we'll be fine to check that out as well.
And when you mentioned you have the Digby station for after,
Yeah.
is that like before? Do you have it booked for the day? Like, because I had put to meet at 10 a.m. and didn't know you were going on vacation, so I wasn't sure why we weren't answering. But I had just put to meet at the gazebo, but I can easily change that to meet at the Digby station.
Digby Station.
Okay, that's
So
good.
So we're thinking 10 o'clock to I don't think we're going to ask people more than 2 hours of their time to meet back by noon, because if we get enough people, we can do enough sections.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. Should have done that. Yes. Deputy.
First of all, thank you for coming. It's nice to see some younger faces coming to council. And secondly, Waste Check will be your best friend.
Okay.
They will supply a lot of stuff for you if you make contact with them. If you can't get a hold of them, please let me know and I'll help you out.
Okay.
Sure.
Tomorrow. We have a meeting
Yes,
there
I think,
tomorrow.
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, so we did contact them there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Really appreciate it.
We're getting some swag too, like some bugs and stuff, so after when we go back to the Digby Station, we'll do some draws for people and wonderful. And you said you'd buy the pizza, so.
I would.
We're all
Send me the bill.
Yeah. Councilor Weir.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I also sent a email out of the event poster, Stephanie and Brock have, and a little bit of the information. You see her email and stuff there as well, if you need it.
Perfect.
One last comment on that. I was planning on taking the bags of trash to the Ways and Means or whatever, the station down the road. Is that something that I would still?
We'll look after that.
Okay, perfect.
This is brilliant.
Glad we came, guys.
What a collaboration.
All right, yeah. Next year will be bigger and better.
Awesome.
All right, move on to the CAO report.
Okay. March was a pretty busy month. I had 36 different events and meetings, for appointments, on day-to-day stuff. On the NSUARB M12061, the planning and appeal development agreement. Decision in relation to the appellants standing as aggrieved parties have been approached on by the board, and we are waiting for the board to set another preliminary hearing date. Code of conduct for elected officials online module. I believe everybody has been contacted and notified. This is just mainly a reminder that we have 30 days to take this online course. It is mandatory.
30 days, you said?
Yeah.
Till the end of the month. Till April 30th. What's the date? 23 days.
Straightened out, your worship. I'll be able to do it, but now I won't be able to remove old petroleum tanks from the ground though.
I'll get pizza.
Nova Scotia Labor Skills, Immigration and Occupational Health and Safety. So on Tuesday, March 25th, 2025, Officer Bruce conducted an inspection on the town DP workplace under the Government Services Initiative, which resulted in a compliance order being issued. And the order is for the requirement for program. So where 20 or more employees are regularly employed by an employer other than a constructor or contractor, the employer shall establish and maintain a written occupational health and safety program in consultation with the committee or representative, if any, that is adapted to the circumstances of the organization for the purpose of implementing the employer's policy, this act and its regulations. So we had convened the above provisions as follows. We failed to establish and maintain a written OHS program as required by the Act. We do have a committee, however, we weren't fully aware that we needed to do a written program as well. So in order to be in compliance with this section, we must establish a written OHS program that includes all the requirements listed in section 28(2) of the Act, and provide this officer with a copy of the program. This order must be complied with by April 30th, 2025. Staff are currently working on the establishment of a written OHS program to be submitted by April 30th. We do have a meeting with workers' compensation representatives tomorrow morning to discuss this program.
Just OHS, because we have one, but is there any program through NSFM that would be an outside source that would do that for you, that would save you some time and money?
That's, do you want me to speak? That's what workers' compensation is gonna do for us.
Oh, great.
So, yeah, so they have a division of workers' compensation that works with, Department of Labor, and that's why we've been in touch with them. So they're coming tomorrow, they're gonna work with us to develop our plans, so.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Excellent. Any other questions from the CAO? No? If not, we'll move on to the committee of the whole. A few recommendations on the committee of the whole.
I'll move that council authorize the CAO to bid the minimum bid in the upcoming tax sale for bid 30231906 at 10 Carlton Street.
Second that.
Second. Any questions on that?
May I just get a comment?
Sure.
There's been some development on that file, and payments have been made on the outstanding taxes. in order to stop it from going back to tax sale, he has to come up with the balance of the outstanding, which will bring it up at a zero balance. And then, of course, we start all over again once the new one. But, so the likelihood of, at this point, the likelihood of it actually going to tax sale is unlikely, but it's still possible. And I would still like to have this authorization in case it does, and we know it's so.
Good. All right, thank you for the update. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And I'd like to move that council approve spending $1,000 for the redistribution model for sending news letter in the mail via Canada Post.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I'd also like to move that the council approve the purchase of the economy version of the Alertable app at a cost of $3,950 per year plus taxes on a 1-year trial basis.
I'll second that. Second. Any questions on that? Yes.
Oh, I'd just like to, thank you, Mr. Chair, I'd just like to state for the record that, the council and staff, I'd like to state that, this communication platform for me was very, I've been waiting for the approval. It's been on my campaign, it was my #1 campaign, when I was running for election. And, it's incredible rewarding to finally see something to get adopted to the town hall. While it took a little bit of time to do, we came together as a team. I find the communication solution for our community this is perfect. And I'm excited to see it in action and strengthen all the connections with the constituents and beyond. As someone, I'm still relatively new. I seriously want to thank you all, especially Deputy Mayor, EA, Leslie, Ralph, especially council, for all the effort you guys put in. You guys did amazing, and it's cool to see us all come together and work hard towards something that's going to help us out big time. I really appreciate it.
Just one piece of the puzzle, we still have
Oh, yes.
communications policy and the communications strategy have all been written, so now you'll see the next committee, executive committee.
Yes, great steps ahead.
So this alert system as well is, will be at the trade show, and you can sign up for it, so this will give you, it's not necessarily emergency, but it's for town meetings and events going on, similar to what the Rink has, but it's more advanced. So it can go to your laptop, your cell phone, and even a land phone as well, so you get a message on the landline phone as well. So it's a great thing, and you guys did a great job putting that together. It's good, so let's all in favor?
Yeah.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I'll move that council approves the following priority resolution for the Provincial Capital Assistance Program grant application for the Carlton Street Engineering pre-design. Whereas new housing development and the provision of drinking water, wastewater, and stormwater collection systems to foster such development are high on council's list of priorities. And whereas council supports residential development while addressing safety concerns raised by local residents, and whereas council has identified that upgrading Carlton Street as a project to accomplish this priority, and whereas an engineered pre-design would be required, and whereas funding for providing these services cannot be accomplished without funding from other levels of government, be it therefore resolved that the town council of the town of Digby make the above-mentioned project a priority for the 2025-2026 PCAP application for funding. And be it further resolved that the town of Digby council commits funding for its share of the project.
Second.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. Next we'll move on to the bylaw and policy committee.
there's one more.
I'll move that council approves the following priority resolution for the Provincial Capital Assistance Program grant application for the Harding Memorial Lookup Project engineering design. Whereas the Harding Memorial Lookup on Queen Street serves as a significant cultural and scenic landmark, offering residents and visitors a place to appreciate the natural beauty and history of the area. And whereas the structural integrity, safety, and accessibility of the lookup are essential for public enjoyment and long-term sustainability. And whereas the town of Digby recognizes the need for a professionally engineered decking solution that meets all safety standards, environmental regulations, and aesthetic considerations, be it therefore resolved that the town council of the town of Digby make the above-mentioned project a priority for the 2025-2026 PCAP application for funding. And be it further resolved that the town of Digby council commits funding for its share of the project.
Seconded. Second. Any questions? Anything else? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
If I can just for a second.
Sure, yeah.
Just for the new counselors, when the reason why these are in here as priority resolutions is that adding a priority resolution to a grant application is a huge bonus in regards to the scoring system. You don't have one, or you say you're going to get one, it counts against you, whereas already having one is a huge bonus. So that's why we do these type of things, especially for the engineering ones. I just wanted to make you both aware of that. I think the rest of you already knew, but
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to the bylaw policy committee report. Tom did not read these out there. Yes, read them up. Okay, so the bylaw and policy committee met with regards to the community grants. Total for community grants this year was $41,100. Following was awarded. Digby Food Bank, $3,000. Computer just banged out. Warfart Rally, $5,000. Friends of Faro, $1,500. Lobster Bash, $5,000. Digby Area Tourism Association, $4,500. $1,500 of that $4,500 goes to the U.S. ad that they put in the States. Digby Scald Days, $7,500. Digby Cancer Health Fund, $500. Digby Curling Club, $2,000 pending receipts. Southwest Nova Biosphere, $250. Danville Business Association, $5,000. Yarmouth Hospital Foundation, $1,500. Digby Area Theatre Society, $2,100. Digby Skating Club, $2,000. And the Digby General Hospital Auxiliary, $1,250. I guess that puts a total of $41,100. Need a motion for that. Seconder?
I'll second that.
Any questions? Yes, Councilor.
I'd just like to state, some people don't know that some of those grants, they're just asking for that amount. It's not what we're just delegating. So most of them almost maxed out anyways. So like, for example, for cancer funds, $500 they want, we give $500. All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. The Area Recreation Committee.
Reports in the packages, just sort of highlight when we went to the orientation with the fellow from Simcoe. He was a great guy, he's very knowledgeable, an older guy, had been around a while. And the first thing he asked was, what do you want to know and why? And I said, well, I'm the new person on the committee. I said, when they talk about evaporators and compressors, I said, I know what the equipment is, but what does it do and why do we have it and how many do we have? And he really praised our whole board for saying, you know, you're one of the only boards that have actually got me to explain how your rink works. He said, I really wish other boards would do this. So we were really enlightened. Even some of the, I think, Mike, some of the older people on the board were sort of enlightened by some of the information that he gave us. And he showed...
old? Are you calling me old?
Not you, I was referring to Linda. So we have, like, for instance, we have 3 compressors, both about the size of a Buick engine, and they're different ages. And I said, why we have 2 sheets of ice, why do we have 3 compressors? And he said, well, basically it's so if one of them goes down, you can still run on the other 2. And he said, it's just a matter of changing the valves and how the fluid runs, whether or not they keep running. He said, and then that's why your compressors are different ages, so that you have one that's fairly new, one that's just been overhauled, and one that he said he just got the results back from some metal shavings in the oil. So it indicates that it needs to be overhauled. So that kind of came up when he was doing it. But he also sort of explained how the process of making ice works and the sort of the metrics of how they do it. And it really struck me. He said it's not making the rink cold. he said it's taking the heat out of the rink. And that's what makes the ice. So, it's really interesting to listen to him. So he was, explained why it failed, and they're meant to be outside, but they only have a certain life and that kind of thing. But I thought it was really, really a lot of information. It was really useful.
It was good, and if we ran ice all year long, we could heat our pool from the condenser.
Right.
Too.
Yeah, there's always
ice all year long, so we can't heat the pool.
But he did suggest, he said, there are ways to use it. You could use it to heat the dressing rooms.
Right.
Instead of using electric now. He said you have to be a modification, of course, but that's something you could put in your plan later, to do that. So there's always ways to save money and start using everything else. There was nothing yet from the community use of schools, even though DRH was supposed to get back to us again. We haven't heard anything from the school board. I forget his name. He's in Yarmouth. He was supposed to get back to us too, and he never got back to us. The Virtual Hall of Fame, commend Councillor Fook for helping out with that. That would be great. Be fantastic.
We haven't gone far yet, but we will.
We're getting there.
Perfect. I think you have a lot of material. You're going to be just
the
going
organization is going to be the key.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And subsequent to the 5-year budget, we did get some final figures, and we had a ratification online, but we haven't got back together to do that formally. So I didn't want to talk too much about the budget until we actually did it.
Perfect. So just for everyone's information here, there was a funding announcement at the arena at 1 p.m. on Friday. So you may want to attend the funding announcement from Joe Balser on Friday at 1 o'clock. Refreshments will be served. Refreshments? What's never refreshments? That's what she said on the email, refreshments served. I'm going. All right, thank you, Deputy Mayor. We'll move on to the Accessibility Advisory Committee report.
That's me again. That's a new committee for me, so we're kind of just getting reorganized after not meeting for quite some time. The accessibility deadline is quickly looming, but we have gotten a reprieve with extensions when we actually have some things done. What we decided to do was make an inventory of things that have been done already in the municipality and in the town. And we've asked for dollar figures to go with that, so we sort of have a record going forward of what it costs us, and any other requirements that the province might come up with in the meantime. So we've got a timeline there of using our Director of Public Works, because he has the courses for the accessibility study, and a draft plan, and time for public engagement or public surveys. We haven't decided which way we're going to go. And as well, final draft is going to be done hopefully between June the 1st and 30th, with July 1st deadline to give it to the province.
Great. Great. Thank you very much. Any other questions for Deputy Mayor? If not, we'll move on to correspondence. First one up is the Nurse Practitioners Association of Nova Scotia Conference, is being held at the Pines, May 23rd and 24th. They're seeking some donations as far as gift certificates, health and wellness products, company branded merchandise, and any other nice things. So, what's your wishes there?
Is there anything we could get from Dark?
You might be able to. We have some 35 stuff coming as well. So, put something together unless it was town stuff down there. Perfect. All right. Everyone's all right with that? All right. Move on to the 3rd annual community Easter event.
She just asked, Rebecca needed to leave it just for.
Yeah, so that will be with the Ukraine Society, I guess it is, and that's Saturday, April 12th at the Legion from 1 to 4. Free for everyone to attend. They have Ukrainian food for sale, homemade crafts and goodies, a music jam, bring your own instrument, BYOI. And how do you say that? Saski egg class. We'll teach you how to paint on the eggs. And you can make a donation to the Red Cross there. So in charge when you come in. So once we have our alert system, that'll all be on our alert system, and we can put that all through there so everybody will know what's going on. So it's a great tool that we're So we'll move to new business, H, Division for Traffic. So, is there a date there for that?
Yeah, either April 24th or May 21st.
So if you haven't gone, which none of you have gone here, I went up a few years ago with the Police Advisory Committee. It's really neat to see what services we are getting for our tax dollar. So it's worth going, that's for sure, if you want to go. So Leslie, how do they sign up for that?
They can let me know, and I know 2 have already signed up.
Yeah.
I just wanted to put just a one last call, see if anybody else is interested.
What was the date again?
It'll be May 21st, since we have a meeting on the 24th, we figured that would be easier, so.
So did you put that forward, Grant?
Yeah,
Okay. Perfect.
Councilor Wilson, so great.
So yeah, it's worth going to see all the different divisions they have, and then you can go over, they take you over to another building in the industrial park, it's where they training officers and stuff, and they have guns and stuff, and the rings and all that stuff.
Will they train us?
Huh?
They train us.
Well, they got to use a stun gun, so it makes you happy, right?
So looking for a dog dummy.
So the interesting part is when we went, if we want to go up again to see, you can just call them in anytime you like. Well, not anytime, but call them first, and if you want that. If you don't make the trip, you can call them, and they'll take you in and show you as well. So they're very, very helpful that way. So, but it is really neat. So. Okay, we'll move into 1-2, which is draft equity, diversity and inclusion plan.
I'd just like to commend, I think Leslie did the majority work and all of it. It's very well done. Very well done.
Very well.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So do we need adoption for that? Yep. Make a motion to adopt the accountability, equity, diversity, and inclusion plan, please.
Motion for that.
Motion, Councilor Flett, second. Second. Councilor Weir, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Leslie.
Can I just speak?
Sure can.
It was a fair bit of work. And we are a few days late because we were due March 31st, but it was a fair bit of work, but we pulled it together, Grant and I, so.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Move on to case study proposal. Shane? Yes.
Myself, thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know if everyone's in there seeing that and read a little bit of it, but I did pass some out just in case people wanted to read it. Just a quick review on what exactly I'm asking for here is that I just want to share that this proposal that these guys can see and you see on the paper. It's just preparing our youth for real life, right? So we're in a housing crisis. Cost of living's going crazy. We're at 30% plus here in Digby as a low income area, which I think is even more. Too many students are graduating with basic life skills like budgeting and renting, and understanding credit, etc. We could even go on with social media, you name it. So what I'm proposing is a mandatory life skills and financial literacy program, hopefully at least to the grade 10s to 12s at our high school. It would teach these students how to manage money, plan careers, live independently, setting themselves up for long-term success, and reducing the future strain on housing and social supports. And really, it's time we give our youth the tools they need. So that's just basically what it's about. Just wanted to, as council, we spoke time and time again about the growing challenges we're facing here in the community. Housing insecurity, as we know, it's crazy. It's rising poverty, increasing pressures on the emergency systems, but If we could get ahead and of these problems before they even begin, I'm asking like for some support on a life-changing initiative here. And it's not the fix, of course, but we gotta start somewhere. The life skills and the financial literacy program in our local high school would be amazing. I think our youth are stepping into adulthood unprepared for the basic realities of managing monies, finding housing, navigating the workforce, and there's a gap, and that's costing them their future and costing our community in the long run, really. This isn't just about education, it's about prevention. It's about giving our young people the confidence and the tools to build a stable, independent life for themselves. It's about ensuring that the next generation doesn't fall into the same traps of poverty. Housing insecurity that we're struggling with now is, it's crazy out there. Well, we have the opportunity right now to lead, to act, to change this trajectory of lives right here in Digby. So I'm just hoping that the council, being said that we can make this thing. We can really help out. I'm just looking for maybe, I don't know how to go about this, but maybe a letter or some motivation for any municipality, whatever do you guys think?
So we're getting old because we used to have all this.
Never once.
What was that, Paul?
I said, I think we're getting old because we used to have all this stuff. Well, now it's counting, we used to do it all.
Right.
If I may, I'll actually offer that maybe once we're done FCM, if you would like to sit down, I used to do or volunteer with junior achievers when I worked in Halifax. So I've done a number of the programs that they have. They do have an affiliation with most of the large financial institutions. I know through RDC we have access to the programs to be able to present them. So I'd be happy to work with you to see if we can present something to, and I'm going to say both the elementary school and the high school. So do them both. What we found was there was a little more success when you started at say grade 6, present the dollars and cents program, and then I can't remember what the name of the program for the high school students was, but there's one that's beyond that. And a lot of the kids that manage to go through and get both dollars with cents, and then a few years later have the next one, they had better financial outcomes and financial literacy than the students who weren't exposed to the programs. Unfortunately, it's way underutilized in rural areas because there's no junior achievement office anywhere near here. But yeah, I'd be happy to work with you on that. I just suggest maybe we wait until after FCM and the next couple of months, or this month and then May will be relatively busy, but I think June would be a good time to sit down and maybe we reach out to the principal at the elementary school and the one at the high school.
Great. Deputy Mayor?
I think that there's a big component that's missing in that too right now. That kids in Norway are among the top in the world because in the Norway school system they introduced a program that teaches them not only media savvy, but fact checking, being able to spot fraud, being able to say this is actually an automated intelligence, whatever they're reading, fake news, all those sorts of things. So that's a really big component now that probably should be in that package too.
AI, let's get it.
All right, so you're okay with
Be amazing. Great. Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll move on.
Could I ask,
If you can just refer to myself, yes, go ahead.
Okay.
Normally we don't, but I'll go ahead. Yeah.
I'm an accountant, financial advisor. I actually speak and teach this stuff. I've done it for students worldwide. And I also have been a substitute teacher at Digby High and Elementary for 3 years now. And I have done a couple talks at the school regarding finances. It is desperately needed, but I will say some of the students, and these would be the ones in the non-academic math, are getting a little bit of the fundamentals, not enough. Some programs that I have thought of that I would love to teach around here would be like teaching people how to prepare their taxes, just studio tax, and just walk them through it, because it kills me what they're paying to have a T4 and some donations process. Like, it's a simple skill, and there's so many of them that I know they need and that I'm able to teach. No, these programs offered by banks and institutions are very good, but one of the things that I found when I presented to the students is they really need stories to engage them, and a lot of these programs are dry. If you can take a system like the one in Norway that is working and copy that, please do it, because trying to create your own is not, I've seen that in the school so many times, it's, why don't they just copy it? Because they're successful. And I've seen the videos being shown to the students about social media and some of the things that are happening, and I've asked the students, like, is that true? And they're like, oh yeah. And it would scare the pants off of you, some of the things that are happening. So I really love what he said. I love what both of you had said. And if you are interested in having some courses taught to other people, like a community thing for more of the adults and stuff, I would be more than happy to give you, to teach them.
Okay, perfect. So maybe you can bring in information and get you guys in
The
contact
library
with
is
them.
always looking for people to help with taxes too.
Yeah.
I've done the volunteer income tax program before. I would really rather see them learn how to do them.
All right, that's great. Well, thank you very much. Very good. Like I say, you can, any input you can give us, that'd be perfect.
Sure.
If you go on our website as well, you can have your email addresses.
I was at Shane's house last night.
Okay.
So.
You planned it, or?
Listen, she just showed up.
No, he did not. I knew he was bringing it up, so I thought I would come and.
That's perfect.
and
Thank you
plan it.
for coming. We appreciate that for sure. All right, so you guys are working on that, the collaboration there, great. Next is East Link, I'm working on this. What's next?
Safety Skull Day.
East Link. That's right. So, been working on, again, we've been working on our communication. Today it was confirmed if we decide we want to, Eastlink will televise our council meetings now. So they will be on Eastlink absolutely free of charge for us. So the meeting is on, our meeting tonight, for example, will be shown next Tuesday. So individuals who don't come very often, like tonight with the taxi cab people, at least they have a week's notice that something's going on in between those weeks, so, you know what I mean? So they'll have a week to, after our broadcast on Tuesday, that next Monday is our committee of the whole, so it would tie in good, if people have questions and concerns, that they have a week's notice of what's going on for the next meeting, or address some stuff that we're approving, right? So, if you'd like to do that, I'll get hold of him tomorrow. What happens is all our council meetings now are on YouTube anyway, so we basically send that YouTube to him, and they put it on for us. So he was around town today taking some photos for the advertising of our council if we decide to do it, and we're ready to move forward with it. And we're the last council that are accepting, so if that's your wish, I'd like to have a motion to move that forward.
I'll motion that you move forward with that, as to provide our feed to Eastlink so they can broadcast it.
Okay, seconder?
Second.
Any other questions with regards to this thing? No? All in
Will you
favor?
notify people on the alert thing too, that the meetings are up?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Scalp days.
As this is the 50th, let me just preface this to start with. I'm trying to get ahead of the court because our meeting is this Thursday. So we, because it's the 50th year, have put many requests set for things a year and more in advance. So we recently got a 32-page document from the Air Force because we requested some flybys and static displays and those sorts of things. There are costs associated with some of them, so I don't know if they're going to approve them or if they're not. But I thought I would ask ahead of time. There is also a requirement that they get a letter for permission, whether it's a fly past or a landing or whatever, that town council give them permission to do a flyby. So I just wanted to make council aware of that. We might be asking for that letter.
Okay, so I had a call about a month and a half ago from Aircraft Club. They're coming here during Scala days. They would do demonstrations for you for absolutely nothing.
Oh, okay, even better.
So I did contact the airport. They're gonna get in contact with them, so if you wanna contact, Paul at the airport, and I'll give you the number as well for them, but they're doing a flying here during Scala days this year. I don't know if there's 10 or 15, but it sounds like it's the right number.
I knew there was a flying club, but I didn't know they were willing to do anything.
Yeah, they take part in that as well, yeah. All right, post office. Well, this is an ongoing thing. Sorry, Mr. Chair. It's an ongoing thing, and honestly, I was told out from downtown by the post office, by the post office workers, about their parking areas there. So on Church Street, they have that one spot under the tree everyone likes to park in, but it's deleted and it's yellowed out. So what's happening, and of course someone's parked there at the same time, what's happening is the truck cannot swing in and swing out of there. It's a very tight road, it is, honestly. And they were asking if I could bring it to you guys and figure out something to do there, maybe a parking sign or whatnot. But they're all having the issue down below as well. There is a parking sign. So their recommendation was there was no handicap parking there. Maybe put one in front of the one on Water Street, Lundy Road, whatever you want to call it. Then nobody would park there as well in front of the post office. But I did reach out to Deputy Mayor here, and he has some really good information. Maybe he can share some.
Well, just because you can't just put a handicap parking space where you want, but I thought we could at least put no parking signs up where there is no parking sign. That would be first. But also there should be a component for Laura Lee to sort of make time to go over there when it seems to happen most frequently and educate drivers who park there. So that would be a second direction. But I think there's lots of accessibility parking in there as well. I think the other issue too is
there's three handicap spots around the post office. One in the parking lot, one by the building that's under construction, one across the street.
So we've had some issues with the parking there over the years. They wanted one going down Church Street, but you couldn't because they couldn't get out because of the hill, right? Because they have the ramp in the wrong area basically to get on that ramp. So if you're getting out with a wheelchair or something on downhill, you can't get into the ramp, right? So I don't know if that's Laura Lee or is that the RCMP or do we have jurisdiction to put signs up there? I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, and that was what my intent was to post those two areas with no parking, and all we can enforce it. Yes, it's hatched off, but a lot of people say, well,
2 minutes.
Hatched off only here for a minute or two.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we got the sign, one for it. Right.
So we'll order signs for that.
Great. As far as handicap, I don't know where you wanna.
Get extra handicap.
I was just literally bringing up what they were stating there. Nothing, whatever we can do probably is best. If we show initiative on something, they're showing initiative to me, so.
So all the handicaps on the flat water.
Right. They have some in their parking lot.
They have lots of room in their own parking lot.
One in there, I believe,
Yeah.
I looked at it. But that was just to get away from the hash marks that people are parking.
Yeah.
Right in front of the stop sign there. Okay, this looks so weird. Thank
All
you.
right, perfect, so we'll order the signs for that. All right, that concludes our public portion of the meeting tonight, where we have to move in the camera. So, thank you all for coming out. 20 seconds.
Thanks, bro. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think if you educate people
about that parking spot being an issue for the trucks, it'll stop them faster. Pardon?
Didn't realize it was you. I thought it looked familiar.
It's me.
You forgot her? Oh my goodness.
He sees me at darts every Friday. They both have.
A blurry vision.
Blurry, yeah.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. Alright, yeah, please, thanks.
Thank you, Counselor Foot.
Motion to go in camera?
Motion to win camera. Second.
I move that we accept the resignation of Kelly Lindschmidt from the accessibility team.
And a second. We'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Motion to adjourn. You guys wrap her up?
Yeah, well, you made it. I'll second it.
Oh, do we need?